Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Good morning. Okay, so this series of videos will be looking at topic 4 from chapter 4, which is the institutionalization of business ethics. So the learning objectives of this topic is, so firstly, you should be able to distinguish between voluntary, mandated boundaries of ethical conduct, provide specific mandated requirements for legal compliance in specific subject matter areas related to competition, consumers and safety, specifically address the requirements of Sarbanes-Oxley legislation and implementation by the Securities Exchange Commission, describe the passage of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act along with some of its major provisions, provide an overview of regulatory efforts that provide incentives for ethical behavior, provide an overview of the recommendations and incentives for developing an ethical corporate culture contained in the federal sentencing guidelines for organizations, provide an overview of highly appropriate core practices and their relationship to social responsibility. Okay, the first part is managing ethical risk through mandated and voluntary programs. Okay, so there are various concepts that we need to understand here. The first is mandated boundaries. Okay, so mandated boundaries are externally imposed boundaries of conduct such as laws, rules, and regulations and other requirements. Okay, but first of all, we need to understand what do we mean by institutionalization of ethics. Okay, so easily said, its institutionalization is formalizing the practice of ethics through giving rewards when organizations or individuals follow ethics, and giving out punishment if organizations or individuals do not follow ethics. So in order to reward and punish, then there should be some sort of regulation, rules. Okay, so giving this structure of formalization so that organizations and individuals will be rewarded or penalized is what is meant by institutionalization. So in institutionalization, the organizations are bound or could be rewarded or punished through three ways or three levels of rules. One is called the mandated boundary, the other is called core practice, and the last one is voluntary boundaries. Okay, so mandated boundaries is externally imposed boundaries of conduct such as laws, rules, regulations, and other requirements. So mandated boundaries, when organizations are required by an external agent to fulfill certain ethics requirements. So these are mandated boundaries when they are required by an external party, external organization, external rule. Core practice is documented best practices often encouraged by legal and regulatory forces as well as industry trade associations. It helps ensure compliance with legal requirements, industry self-regulation, and societal expectations. Well, core practice, or another word for core practice, is best practices. It is some sort of a recommendation, and usually it is over and beyond the mandated boundaries. So mandated boundaries could be, you can say, it's the minimal requirement, but core practice or best practice is recommended by the industry, by regulations. Okay, and one type of one example of body that has core practice is Better Business Bureau, which is a leading self-regulatory body that provides direction for managing customer disputes and reviews advertising cases. So they have recommended core practices in terms of managing customer disputes and reviews advertising cases. And the third one is voluntary boundaries. It is what the organization does out of its own accord, out of its own realization, out of its own belief, values, and usually this is over and beyond the mandated boundaries. And philanthropy is one example of voluntary boundaries, where organizations give back to communities and to serve some causes. So you can see in this diagram the elements of ethical culture, where you have the outer ones is voluntary actions, governance, core practices, and legal compliance. Then you have values, norms, artifacts, and behavior, and then you have the culture. Okay, first of all, we look at mandated requirements for legal compliance. Okay, so like I said, mandated requirement is requirements imposed by an external party or external agency or external rules. Okay, so primarily organizations are mandated by certain laws. Okay, and laws can be categorized as either civil or criminal. Civil law defines the rights and duties of individuals and organizations, whereas criminal law not only prohibits specific actions such as fraud, theft, or securities trading violations, but also imposes fines or imprisonment as punishment for breaking the law. And usually civil law, the action is taken by individuals or organizations against another individual or organization. Okay, so if a wrongdoing is only of concern towards another entity, an organization's wrongdoing is only towards another organization or individual, and to be punished for that requires that the victim, the individual or organization that is the victim, it requires that the victim brings the perpetrator to the court. This is usually under the civil law. Under the criminal law, the person, the organization that perpetrates the wrongdoing will be brought to court by the state or by the country. Okay, it does not require an individual or organization to bring the organization to court, but rather the country, the state, will initiate a legal proceeding against the perpetrator. So that will usually come under criminal law. So there are laws that regulates competition. Okay, so this is specifically with regards to ethics, institutionalization of ethics. So there are laws that specifically regulate competition. So issues surrounding the impact of competition on businesses' social responsibility arise from the rivalry among businesses. Okay, when businesses compete unfairly, legal and social responsibility issues can result. Size frequently gives some companies an advantage over others, which is sometimes unfairly. Okay, so which requires laws to regulate such practice. Competitive strategies may focus on weakening or destroying a competitor. So certain organizations, they take up competitive strategies that focuses on weakening or destroying a competitor, and that is an unhealthy form of competition. And there are laws that were enacted in order to minimize these types of competitive strategies. Intense competition also leads companies to resort to corporate espionage. Okay, so therefore laws enacted to protect companies from corporate espionage. Pro-competitive legislation were formed to prevent the establishment of monopolies, inequitable pricing practices, and other practices that reduce or restrict competition among businesses. So basically, laws that regulate competition tries to encourage healthy competition, and these examples of problems such as monopolies, inequitable pricing practice, and other things, they reduces the healthy competition in the industry. Okay, so laws are usually enacted in order to inculcate healthy competition rather than unhealthy competition. Okay, so another form of law that is usually enacted related to mandated boundaries of ethics is laws that protect consumers. Okay, laws that protect consumers. So consumer protection law, law that protects consumers, that require businesses to provide accurate information about their goods and services and follow safety standards. So generally, consumer protection law require businesses to provide accurate information about their goods, so that consumers are not duped, or the consumers are not being represented with inaccurate information about the things that they want to buy. Okay. Bureau of Consumer Protection protects consumers against unfair, deceptive, and fraudulent practices. And then there are laws like Food and Drug Administration, FDA. It is a federal agency in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that has stringent standards for approving drugs. And it regulates food safety, human drug, tobacco, dietary supplements, vaccines, veterinary drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, products that give off radiation, and biological products. So these are the items that fall under the purview of Food and Drug Administration. So these are examples of laws that try to protect consumers in different aspects. Okay, the first one is about making sure that consumers are fed with accurate information. The second one is protecting the consumer against frauds. And the third one is to protect the consumer with regards to physical protection against unhealthy food and cosmetics. Next, there are laws that promote equity and safety. Okay, so we've looked at laws protecting consumers, laws that encourage healthy competition among the industry players, and now we are looking at laws that promote equity and safety. So the Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act in the US prohibits discrimination in employment on the basis of race, sex, religion, color, or national origin. So this law is about promoting equity, equal rights among the various groups of people. So it prohibits discrimination in employment, so that the practice of employment is not using race, sex, religion, color, or national origin as the basis of hiring or firing of people. And this act is has created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Equal Pay Act, okay, another act related to promoting equity and safety, mandates that women and men who do equal work must receive equal pay, because there has been quite a long time when there are differences between the salary of men and women. For the same amount of work, the same level of work, same amount of skill, women typically get only 80% of what men gets. Okay, so that the Equal Pay Act tries to overcome that issue. And then the Occupational Safety and Health Act mandates employers provide safe and healthy working conditions for all workers. So this is with regards to safety. And the Occupational Safety and Health Administration enforces safe and healthy working conditions and makes regular surprise inspection to ensure businesses maintain safe work environments.